Assalamu alaikum. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be here today and to accept this invitation to come speak. I'm delighted to do so, and part of the reason why this is again another really exciting thing for me is because because of this book, had the opportunity to talk about learning really all over the world. And what I hear from the people that I talk to, no matter where I am, is the same thing, is that people at this point in time really care about what's happening in education. I hear that in Europe, I hear that in Japan, in Korea, in Singapore, and now in UAE. And it's something that I think matters deeply to people. And we're all facing very similar challenges. Most of them brought about by what we talk about in this book as what it means to live in a world of constant change. And as the world is changing, it feels like sometimes more rapidly than we can keep up. Learning becomes one of the central tools for really engaging with the world at all. The first thing we found was that almost all of our educational theories and practices were grounded in a theory of teaching rather than a theory of learning. And we came to realize very quickly that teaching is something, or education is something we do to our students, not something we do with our students. And I think that's been mostly to our detriment and to theirs. The second thing that we came to realize very quickly is that education has become something that's been compartmentalized. And by that I mean it's something that's limited to the classroom. It's something that's limited to a workshop, a seminar, a training program. Instead of understanding that learning is something we do from the time that we're born until the time that we die. And the tools that we as educators need to give our students should apply just as much to what's going on in their daily lives as it does to what's going on in the classrooms. And the third thing that has been really interesting to me, since I spent a lot of time looking at games and play, is that we've unfortunately created a binary division between what we consider to be work and what we consider to be play. In other words, if someone's having fun, they can't possibly be doing something serious. And I think in doing that, what we've done is we've taken the aspect that makes learning most powerful, which is fun, joy, pleasure, and we've taken out of the equation in our classrooms. Again, I think to our detriment. So we've grown somewhat suspicious that anytime someone is having fun or enjoying the process, that they can't be doing something serious. And I think that has become a real problem in how we've theorized education as well as how we practice it. So as we were thinking about this book, one of the things we kept seeing, at least in the American literature, was the phrase that our schools are broken. And when we look at especially kindergarten through 12th grade in America, there's a lot of frustration with the fact that our schools don't seem to be working very well and don't seem to be delivering on the promise of education. And what we realized pretty quickly is that schools aren't actually broken, that maybe it's our theory of learning that's broken. And if we start to address that, the schools will be able to take care of themselves. So I had a lot of conversations with my co-author, John Seely Brown, as we were thinking about this book and writing it. And the first thing I did is I had this moment where I called him up very excited and I said, John, I just figured this out. All we need to do is change the culture. Right? And after he stopped laughing at me, right, he said, that's the hardest thing in the world to do. Right? So the problem is that culture eats strategy for lunch every day. I don't know if that idiom translates very well, but meaning that culture is the hardest thing to deal with. Strategy's easy. You can put policies in place, but if the policies don't work in the culture, they're never going to be implemented and they're never going to be effective. The fascinating thing about all of this is that when you have all of those ingredients, when you have that passion mixed with a sense of relevance, it's impossible to stop people from learning. Right? That's the magic formula. And if you can engage their imaginations, it's almost impossible to stop them from learning. The problem is that most of those things I've just described have absolutely no connection to our classrooms today. Right? When you look at what's happening in classrooms, they're not places of experimentation and joy and wonder. They're places of tedium, boredom, rote exercises, and experiences that people feel they need to get through rather than enjoy. The question becomes why? And one of the things that I think has become a critical problem for us is that we live in a culture, we live in a world where assessment drives everything. And we've become, unfortunately, confusing the measurement with the thing that's being measured. Right? And when we look at assessment as the goal or the end point, we lose everything that's important about the process. And as a result, we end up treating every student and every class and every experience the same. The process of trying to standardize them such that they can be measured in a way does violence to all of those things that I was talking about, the experimentation, the play, the joy, and the wonder. So the question becomes, how do we start thinking about this process in a way which is not solely about an outcome that can be measured equally across the board for every single student? The way that worked was I was going to have them, 11 students, each write an essay about something that they cared about in the course topic. We would edit them all together. I would write an introduction, and then we'd go publish it on Amazon with some of the new publishing tools and actually have a book written. And they really liked this idea. And they all went out and started talking about it. And they came back the next class and said, we like the idea, but if we write a book, we really want to write a book. We don't want 11 essays that are edited together. We want to actually do this. So we came up with a project where they did everything, from writing, editing, picking out fonts, doing layout, doing advertising, marketing, put it on Amazon, all of that from beginning to end. And they divided themselves into 3 different groups. Each had a section that they wrote, 3 different essays in each section. And along the way, what I had them do was keep a journal. And over the course of the semester, what they had to come up with was 3 assignments. They had to figure out what they were good at in terms of the group. They had to figure out what they were bad at in terms of group work. And they had to figure out how to use the first to compensate for the second. So the last thing that I want to leave you with is back to the idea of assessment and understanding what it is that we are doing with our students, and more to the point, to our students. And I've had a number of students over the course of years who I really believe have had transformative experiences in the classroom. And most of us, when we go into education, when we go into learning, we do it because we want to see that wonder in the student's eyes. We want to see the light bulb go off over their head. We want to see them be thrilled about the experience of learning something new. And in terms of efficiency, one of the models that we came up with in our book is the idea of the Epiphany as a much better model for assessing learning. In fact, I would love it if instead of A's, B's, and C's, we'd start rating instructors based on number of ahas per hour, right? How many ahas do your students have every hour that you teach, right? That would be great, right? But the idea of an epiphany is wonderful because it is almost infinitely efficient, because it's something that takes only an instant for a student to come to, and it lasts forever. So what I'd like to encourage you all to do is start thinking about, rather than how do we teach our students the things that we felt like we've had to teach them all along that they needed to know for the 20th century, and how do we go about starting to create aha moments and efficiency that's going to serve them better, not only in their classes, but for the rest of their lives and throughout the 21st century. Thank you very much.